If you're interested in making sprites, Pulloff recommends 2 different programs: Photoshop, which costs money, and GIMP, which is free. Although he's more familiar with Photoshop, GIMP can do everything Photoshop can, at least in terms of sprite design. This includes 2 very useful tools called Select Similar, or in GIMP, Select by Color, and Inverse Selection, or in GIMP, Invert Selection. Rather than selecting the same pixel color individually like in a diagonal pattern, you can use Select Similar, or Select by Color, to speed up the process of sprite development. This is also useful for planning alternate palettes well ahead of time, and you'll want to do that for a multitude of practical reasons. Select Similar or Select by Color will also reveal colors in spots you may have overlooked from before. If you try setting up the alternate palettes in Fighter Factory, the program that every Mugen project is inevitably moved to for operating in Mugen, and try to change the color like with Robin's cape in Fighter Factory, you'd have to change the color of that individual pixel as well for it to match. This is only one sprite. Imagine stranded pixels everywhere across all of your character sprites. Select Similar and Select by Color are extremely useful for avoiding these issues, especially when finalizing the sprite sheet of that character. An alternative to Select Similar in Photoshop is to uncheck the continuous box, which will automatically select the same values of the color. The selections are dependent on the tolerance, or in GIMP, the threshold. Inverse selection, or invert selection, is a way of selecting the opposite of everything you already have selected. This can be very useful for a miscellaneous amount of reasons. If I select the area around a sprite, then use inverse or invert selection, the character is all that is selected. Then I can copy and delete it from the layer. If the selection is pasted onto its own layer, it doesn't move from its original position outside of the constrained selection, which would happen if you used a select box. Alternatively, you can create or switch to a different layer while the constrained selection still exists, creating borders to do anything within it. The most frequent use of inverse selection is when cropping sprites, which is vital during the final phases of prepping the sprite sheet for Fighter Factory.